Welcome back to the Friday Night Lights preseason basketball special. Time to talk about the gentlemen. Jack Cruiser and Chad Andrews with you for half hour number 2. Let's dive into the boys' side of Western New York high school basketball. Chad, last year was a great year for hoops in Western New York. A lot of big storylines to come out of the 2022-23 season.
Yeah, and first of all, Jack, they're all wondering, who are these faces? We're the second part of the show, and now they're wondering, who's Chad Andrews? He's center court. He's the view from center court guy. That's me. So Chad Andrews, also center court. Hello, everybody. Top storylines from last year. I don't think there was anything bigger than Randolph winning a state championship. First in program history for their basketball team. That was big time. What a pleasure that was to be at Glens Falls and watch them do it. And they're going to be very good again this year. Timon winning the Manhattan Cup, first one in over 20 years. They had been swept by Canisius in the regular season. They come back, get over the hurdle. They bring the farm back. Watch out for Timon coming back. Huge storyline from last year. How about Fredonia coming in as a 12 seed into the playoffs last year in Class B and marching through? I had them as my sleeper in my sectional preview, and lo and behold, it was Fredonia left standing. Beat Newport in that crossover game. There's some pretty big storylines from last year.
Timon, really an impressive team. A lot of returning players from last year's championship roster. 3 main ones that were on your all-center court team a season ago.
3 main ones, including a first-teamer, Jaden Harrison. Jacob Humphrey, their point guard, who is spectacular, came from a place you know well, Cheektowaga. And Nakai Harris, who was a freshman at Sweet Home and then has played his last 2 years over there at Timon. So they've got plenty back, just 3 elite players that were top 25 players from last year.
How rare is that in Western New York to have 3 really talented players on one roster?
It's rare. What's really rare about it is to have them all coming back. It's rare to see 3 players land in the top 25 of any postseason honors. You know, that means you had a truly exceptional team. For 3 of them to be coming back this year, that's a reason to get excited about basketball.
And not to mention they're coached by one of the best in Western New York, Jason Rowe.
An all-time legend, Jason Rowe. Yeah, he's having some success at time, and he's done well since he's been there.
How would you describe the difference between the level of play at the Section 6 level, depending on the class, and the Monsignor Martin? Is there a difference in even play style?
I mean, it's all basketball, so I think the difference in play style is when you have that much talent playing together, you can really kind of get into anything you want to do. And it depends on what that talent is. Are we a shooting team? Are we centered around an all-star? You know, how are we approaching it? So but the Monsignor Martin is the creme de la creme of Western New York basketball. It just is what it is. It's the most competitive league. They've got the best teams kind of top to bottom. It doesn't mean they always have the best team in the area. That depends. But you've got kids that want to go there. I don't even know how to explain it better than what I'm saying, but they have the advantage of a lot of people choosing to go there and wanting to play. So sometimes it's just a collection of talent you can't necessarily put together at a public school because they don't have a recruiting advantage. They don't have other things that a private school has to offer.
How about Niagara Falls last season? Beat Health Sciences at Buff State. They're always a powerhouse, it seems, in Western New York. What can we expect from the Falls this year?
Well, Falls is the biggest school in Western New York, so we hope that they're going to be a powerhouse, and it turns out they are. They're fun to watch. They bring the big band. That game at Buff State against Health Sciences last year was one of those special moments you get at Buff State. James Robinson had a moment, put on a show there. The place was an overflow crowd. You live for that stuff all season, and it played out. It was a great game. I expect Niagara Falls to be back in force. They got plenty of talent back, a little more balanced this year than maybe what they showed last year. Although I think they were a pretty balanced squad last year, too. It just seemed like James Robinson had so much athletic prowess that it seemed like they were so egocentric, star-centric, and really they were a very good team that's going to be back and forth this year.
Niagara Falls, a bit of a change this year, though, along with some other teams in Western New York as far as classifications go. Let's dive into this now as seems to be leading this way anyway.
All right.
With the changes in classification. What does it mean for the sectional playoffs, for the state playoffs, all of that?
It's a major change because they're adding a Class AAA, which has never existed before in the basketball realm. So now we've got that, but only 2 teams wind up in this new state's Class AAA, as a lot of people already know, Niagara Falls and Lancaster. So then it creates a much bigger Class AA. So now there's actually going to be a split in AA. We'll have an AA1 and AA2. That's going to be, a combination of your traditional AA teams like Clarence, Frontier, Williamsville North, and then it's a lot of the A1s come into this new AA. And it's the ripple effect goes all the way down to Class D, where now Class D is left with just 5 teams in the area. I think C has about 17, so it's really the heart of teams now lies in B, A, and a split AA class. And then what it does is it just creates extra basketball all the way across the board. So now we've got this extra classification. That means an extra championship game at the end of the year. So now we've got more games at Buff State during Buff State week. We've got triple headers all week. We've got 2 nights of championships. There's JCC championship, where we've always had C and D on that Friday night, and then you come back Saturday for 5 more games at Buff State. Now there's so many championship games. We've got 2 boys games at Buff State on Friday competing with JCC's championships, 5 more on Saturday. You've got an extra crossover game with a AA split. You've got an extra night of regionals this year, which we host, Section 6 hosts at Buff State. You get an extra night at Glens Falls. Now it starts on a Thursday night instead of a packed weekend of Friday. 18 games instead of 15. Just leads to a lot more basketball.
That's not bad either. A trip to Glens Falls, make it an extra night, get up there Thursday, get that extra hotel room.
Listen, I was already getting to Glens Falls on Thursday night all these years because, I want to get in and get ready. Because you got to be in that arena at 9 a.m. the next day for a day full of basketball. So I was always there on Thursday night anyway. Now I will have high school basketball to watch on Thursday night instead of tournament basketball, which was what I was always watching in my hotel room on the television.
You thinking about getting there Wednesday now?
I might, I might. Or I might just sleep there Sunday night because I'll be too tired to drive home. We'll
Why
see.
not?
We'll figure it out.
Why not?
It's my vacation. This is my annual vacation. I got to do it right.
That's a real good vacation to head out to Glens Falls and see some of the best basketball in the state.
Highly recommended.
Now, you've been covering high school basketball for a while now in Western New York with The View from Center Court. We invite you to check it out, theviewfromcentercourt.com. Chad, your preview will be up there in due time with the new season, all breakdown. You do a great job of all that. As far as the basketball in Western New York is concerned, since you started covering it, how has it evolved? How has it changed over time?
I think the biggest differences I've seen as far as how it's changed are the three-pointer has become a major part of the game. The penetration and kick part of basketball that maybe wasn't as prevalent when I first started really immersing myself in the scene, and I would say that was 2008. The other big difference is when I first started, there was a dominance in the city. All the city programs were bigger teams and better. So you had Riverside was in Class AA, East was an A school. You had Grover at the time, now iPrep. Everybody was bigger and better. They were a lot of Yale Cup teams that would show up at Buff State every year. I think the addition of the charter schools has kind of picked some of that away, and you've seen the city teams get smaller in size and maybe a little less competitive from where they were 17 years ago when I started.
With those changes in the city, we still see some dominant programs to come out of there and make some pushes deep into the postseason. South Park comes to mind.
And health sciences, I know they're not a Yale Cup team, but that's where when I alluded to the charter schools, like there's been so much success with health sciences and a tapestry that a lot of those kids have chosen the charter school route as opposed to the public school. It's just as more options came available. But those are 2 knee-jerk things that come to my mind is the three-pointer, and I just remember that from my time is your public programs have always been around, but it was a little more top-heavy with the Yale Cup in the beginning, and it's spread into charter schools and other things that have popped up.
We're breaking down the high school basketball season on WBFO Friday Night Lights preseason basketball special. Jack Cruiser and Chad Andrews with you. Chad, this year we see a couple coaching changes, and I think we need to talk about this for just a moment and recognize the legend that was left with Gabe Michaels passing this past week. So sudden, 43 years old, the head coach at St. Joe's Collegiate Institute, passes away suddenly, and boy, it was felt across Western New York mightily.
It really was. I'm not going to be able to say much about it. It's very personal to me. He was a very dear friend of mine. I can just say that Gabe was a special guy, and he was a culture changer in the most positive way possible, and he will be so dearly missed over there by the kids at St. Joe's, everyone's life he touched, and it's going to be a tough thing for them to move on from. Certainly, they've got some nice coaches there in place, some great guys who are dear friends of Gabe, and wish him all the best.
That's a real tough position for everyone involved. And
truly, Cooper Calzanetti has been named the coach. He's been an assistant there with Gabe Michael. He's a former Division I player. He coached with Coach McDonald. I think he played for Coach McDonald, so that's going to be nice to see, a friend of Gabe's come in and step in and try and carry the torch over there at St. Joe's. A couple other big coaching changes that happened this year. Jamestown coach Ben Drake finally retired after a brilliant career down there, and longtime JV coach Billy Miley steps in to take over the position. And former Lancer Frank Propus, now the head coach for St. Mary's. So there's a couple big ones.
Frank, a good friend, good for him.
How about Frank?
That'll be fun for the Lancers. They've kind of put together a program over the last couple of years. I remember Massimo Moretti a couple seasons ago was a first-team All-Player, at least in Western New York. You must have had him on one of your All-Center Court teams.
Yeah, he made first. He was a first-teamer. He was an excellent basketball player, had a great season, and the Lancers were able to claim that Catholic high school title in B that year.
This year seems to be a season where there's a lot of changes, and we've mentioned a lot of them so far. Out of some of those changes, who are some of the top dogs that you look at this season saying it's going to be real tough to beat these teams?
Timon. It's going to be real tough to beat Timon, and we've already talked about them. They're going to be excellent. Health Sciences brings so much talent back from last year, and I don't know if everyone can remember all these players, but it's a spread-out roster. It's a balanced roster. They're led by a kid named Amir Moy, who was just a freshman for him last year, a second-team All-Center Court selection, a fourth-team All-State selection. He's the real deal. He's going to lead a balanced, talented Health Sciences team. Amherst, always good. Look for that trend to continue again this year. I would expect McKinley to have a nice season again. I like Clarence a lot. I think that whole league in ECIC1 is an absolute meat grinder. 6 very good teams that can all compete very well with each other. Jamestown's in that league. Lancaster has picked up Jordan Alexander, who came over from Amherst. So you add a player of Jordan's caliber, another second-team All-Center Court selection. That's really a program changer with a kid like that walking in the door, so we'll see what Lancaster can do around him. Your private schools outside of Timon, the usual suspects. You got Canisius, you got St. Joe's, you got Nichols. They're all going to be good. It's a great league and a great race over there. And then in the small schools, I think Salamanca brings a lot of talent back, including a second-team All-Center Court selection in Lucas Brown. I would look for a strong season out of them. Randolph, these defending state champions, come back with a top 25 kid in Drew Hind, and also a first-team All-State selection in Drew Hind. First-team All-State last year, and he's back this year, and he's only a junior. So I would expect Randolph to be very good again. Panama brings a lot back down in the small schools. Fredonia's going to be tough again. Newfane I would expect to be very good, another team that brings a lot back. So if I'm just dancing and pitching teams out real quick, those are a lot that jump out at me that I would expect good seasons from that you'll be hearing about maybe at the end of the year.
You mentioned Drew Hind at Randolph. He's one in a long line of Hind family members to don the Randolph red. How have you seen the evolution of, and I'm asking you a lot of these going back to your time of when you started covering the high school sports area in Western New York, specifically high school basketball. Have you seen a growth in siblings playing and the talent level of those siblings and family members get higher and higher? Because it really seems like that, especially when you talk about Drew Hind.
What I see is, and you can sometimes see it coming, it's you had a father who was the coach of these boys, so he's had this program together since they were kids. They played youth basketball together. This was a team that's been playing together for a long time, so I have the luxury with what I do of being pretty dialed into things, and you hear about this coming for a while. Like, you know, you see him, he's the ball boy with the team, right? Remember, Trey Drake was always the ball boy at Jamestown, dribbling the ball behind the bench, and eventually he's an 8th grader hitting a three-pointer on varsity, and you just keep watching it. Brothers playing together, that's a special thing, especially when there's some talent within the family, and then they get to go home and talk to Coach Dad all the time, so that stuff's great.
Have you seen any other brothers, pairings? This is kind of putting you on the spot here. Brother pairings across Western New York this year that we could see on the floor?
Off the top of my head, I'm blanking, but give me time to think about that. I know that over at Westfield, you've got Nolan Swanson is the head coach at Westfield, and his son Carson, coming into his junior year, another top 25 player, another returning first-team All-State player in Class D. Carson Swanson is a special talent. They move up to Class C this year from Class D. Watch out for them. We're talking about returning players. I know we've mentioned Jaden Harrison. One guy we haven't talked about, and we got to get his name out here because this is a high school basketball preview show. The guy who scored 50 points in 3 games last year, over 50 points, Ja'Kai Rainey. Never seen anything like the kid.
Ja'Kai Rainey, boy, can he shoot.
He
My
sure
goodness.
can. Oh, my gosh. He's never seen a three-pointer he didn't like to put up, but he's pretty good at it. You know, and it's not just threes. He can play defense when he's motivated to. He's got great court vision. He's a nice player.
When you've got a player that can drop 50 any night, and personally we both saw it at Cheektowaga with Dominic Welch and others throughout the course of the last decade and a half of basketball in Western New York, when you've got a kid that on any given night can go off for 50, what does that do for the rest of the team?
It raises the level of everybody, and it lets the other team know it's not over, right? We can have a 17-point lead on these guys in the third quarter. Well, if Ja'Kai Rainey gets hot, that's going to evaporate so quickly. And to your point about saying we've seen all these guys who could go off for 50, we have, but none of them have done it. And that's what makes Ja'Kai Rainey doing it 3 times in a season extraordinary. I believe Don Welch's career high was 47?
47, I think DePew at home.
Well, maybe he had a 50-point game. I'm not sure. It's so rare. It is so rare. And he's coming into his senior year. Oh, my gosh.
Is that just green light, go ahead, pull it whenever you want to?
I think to Ja'Kai it should be. I think I think that the true recipe to nickel success is going to be there's moments where that's needed, but there's a lot of moments where we've got to keep the team every bit involved. You know, if we're looking at just nickel success for example, over the last 2 seasons, they haven't been able to get out of the first round, you know, with these good teams. So I think that would be the message I'd have going in is, look, we've had a lot of individual success here. It's time we put this all together as a team. And the only way you're going to put it all together as a team is with that word, team, right? So, Ja'Kai, you got to know when to take over games, and I can't wait to watch you do it.
Let's dive into some picks as we've got about 10 minutes left in our high school basketball preview show, the Friday Night Lights preseason basketball special, brought to you by Miracle Method, Surface Refinishers in Western New York and Rochester, and Zoldaz Executive Transportation. Let's dive into some picks here. We mentioned Class AAA. There's 2 teams to choose from if you had to say who's going to come out of it, and this is really on the spot, Chad.
I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to go Niagara Falls. Yeah, I'm just gonna push my chips forward on Falls. We'll see if Jordan Alexander and Lancaster has something for him. I'm guessing that's going to be what the final looks like, is Lancaster against Niagara Falls. I don't really see a scenario that could interrupt that, but yeah, I'll take Niagara Falls to win that.
Now let's go to the AA. Split AA. This is the first time this has ever happened, correct?
It is. It is the first time in my time that the AA has ever been split. It's always been a kind of a smaller class of about 8 to 10 teams, and now it's a lot more. So you're going to have split classes without seeing them all in front of me. I can kind of remember looking at it all. I think the team that I think emerges out of AA altogether is Health Sciences. From when I took a look at it, I thought, out of all these AA teams, I like Health Sciences all day to win this thing.
Even more so than a Jamestown or other teams that, now with Lancaster and Niagara Falls out of there, who are some of the teams that you think could take a step up with that vacancy?
This year I'm liking Clarence a lot. I like what Clarence has back. I think that they're going to be a tough team. McKinley's now in the AA. We'll be interested to see how they compete up there. Even teams like Frontier, Williamsville North, Lancaster, Jamestown, they're all going to be competitive and all have a chance to make noise now in Class AA. Knowing what they have back, I will take Health Sciences to be the team left standing when the smoke clears and we have to send somebody onto the regional.
You mentioned Clarence, and I think this is a good topic for a brief moment. With the success that their football team had this fall, I'm not sure how many players carry over and head on to the basketball hardwood for the winter. Do you think there is a correlation between success in a fall sport translating into the winter?
Yes, I do. I think that it can have maybe a little bit of a lag period. If you're going really a deep run into the football state playoffs and you quite haven't got your basketball legs under you yet, I could see a slow start. But I think when you get kids playing together and experiencing success at high levels, and there's just so much that goes with it, right? We're traveling together, it's time together, it's success together. Yeah, it can't not help. It's like having good times together as a family. It just brings you closer as a family. It's human beings. So absolutely, I think success in fall sports can lead to greater things in the winter. And I'm a big advocate of play more. They're sport specific. I say enjoy your high school experience. Play football, play basketball, run track, play baseball, lacrosse. Get it all in.
Do it all, even if it's just one time.
Right.
Join the swim team for a
Live
winter.
your life, yes. Go to your prom. Get a yearbook. Do everything, right? Live your high school experience. This is your life.
Moving on into Class A, Jordan Alexander leaves Amherst. Are they still in a good spot?
Amherst?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think Amherst is going to win Class A. I think Amherst is just fine. That's a program that the cupboard's not going to be bare at. Chris Kenzie is too good of a coach. He has built too good of a program there. Amherst has really just, from the time Chris Kenzie came in, I think it was 2012, to what they look like now, I mean, they are a year in, year out, set your watch, Amherst always going to be good basketball program. They got this great basketball court coming next year, like they're redoing their gym. Like, it's Amherst Central might be the place to be.
The jungle is one of those gyms.
Right, and when you do that and you've built up that program, that's how maybe some of the kids that might have departed earlier for private school start thinking, I don't think I'm going to find a better spot than right here where I'm playing. And that's, to me, that's your best defense against losing kids to other places, is making them want to stay with everything you've taken the time to build up.
Success seems to be the key in that.
Yeah,
and Amherst has had a lot of it.
And doing it the right way. And he's done a good job building a program, and he deserves the success he's got, and I expect that to stick around this year.
Chris Kenzie we can talk all day about the Amherst program. And I'm not going to ask you to say who's the best coach in Western New York, but if you had to pick a handful of the elite coaches that no matter who you give them, they're going to have a competitive team with, who would they be?
I'll tell you who I think is the best coach in Western New York.
Okay.
I don't mind being put on the spot with that question because I thought about that. And I'm not willing to hide, because we've had times where there's been, a handful of legends, and I wouldn't want to say one over another. And, you've seen Jeff Anastasia retire, Ben Drake retired. Now, those were two guys that were very highly thought of. I think Kyle Husband should always be very highly thought of as one of the great coaches in the area. I thought a lot of Gabe Michael as well. We've talked about Chris Kenzie. The guy that I think is the best coach in Western New York right now, or deserves to have his name said in this space, is Kevin Hind from Randolph. Coming right off of a state championship, and you look at the track record of success that's gone on in Randolph since he's been there, and you look at what Randolph did last year. They came into the Center Court Classic and beat Nichols. Nobody saw that coming, and I'm just the clown that's bringing a Southern Tier team that, they don't play anybody, and this. Someone asked me before that game tipped, is this one going to be a blowout?
You wouldn't schedule it if it was going to be a blowout.
Not if I thought it was. So I think that Kevin Hind is absolutely one of the best in the area and deserve. Another one I would push up there, Glenn Anderson from Allegheny Limestone. Adam Bennett's done a great job building program down in Salamanca. Yeah, we got some good coaches in the area.
Move down to Class B. Just a couple minutes left on our Friday Night Lights preseason basketball special with the view from center court, Chad Andrews. At Class B, a lot of good talent in there as well. We could say that about everybody. Newport was dominant last season. Are they expected to take over again?
No.
Ooh.
No, they're not. I think Newport will take a little bit of a step back this year. Believe they return one starter. It's a little bit of a rebuild for Newport this year, so I think they may take some lumps from the success they enjoyed, when Roddy was there, when Jalen was there. Maybe not a bad team, but I don't think that they're going to – I wouldn't expect them to be one of the top 10 small schools coming into the year or anything like that.
Depew was a 2 seed in that B1 bracket last year, lost in the quarterfinals to East Aurora, who was the 7. Cheektowaga ended up beating EA in the semis. How about those two teams, Depew, East Aurora?
So East Aurora, interestingly, slides into this new division that's been created in ECIC. So now there's an ECIC 5, and that's where East Aurora competes. That's also where a couple charter schools move into. So you got Tapestry and Global Concepts coming into that league. Holland's in there. Eden, I believe. Interesting league. Anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. I expect East Aurora is always a good program, always solid. Chris does a great job. Castellani does a great job with that team. That's a team that's always at least competitive. Mm-hmm. I don't see anything changing there. The same with Depew. I think Depew is actually going to have a pretty good team. Depew moves up into Class A2 this year. They are in ECIC 4 now. I think Depew is a team that would have a chance to win both of those. They'd have a chance to compete for league and compete for section.
If you had to pick a champion in Class B, who are you picking preseason?
I would take Salamanca based on what's back, but is that a confident pick? Not as confident as maybe the other two that I've made, and that's because, like when I'm talking about great teams, the Fredonia team that went on their march last year, I expect them to be very good again this year. Nick Bertrando, when we're talking about great coach, there's another one that just quietly grinds out wins and does a great job with his team every year. So you got Fredonia's going to be very good. Newfane, Salamanca. What are we going to get from Middle College this year? That's been a young team that just keeps getting better and better. You never really know with Bennett until the basketball season starts because they're so good at football, and you're just waiting to see who's going to decide to play basketball. And but Salamanca is a team I would push forward and be.
Just a couple minutes left here.
Sure.
Class D or Class C rather. Randolph was the runaway favorite last year.
Yeah, I'll take them again. Let's make them the favorite this year, and I think that Panama, Westfield, couple teams that could be competing with them for it. Holland's in Class C. There's another one, Frewsburg, but I'll take that championship pedigree. I'll take the coach of the year, the first team All-State player, Randolph. I'll pick them again.
And then with those changes, now Randolph and all these schools competing in Class C with the addition of AAA and all these splits, who's the biggest benefactor down in Class D?
I mean, they really should all be. There's only 5 of them, and one of them is a brand new program again, Westfield. They've got a basketball team again this year. They haven't had one in the past few years, so 5 teams there. One of them's new. Clymer, Sherman, Pine Valley, Forestville, West Valley. I'll take Clymer for 100.
Wow.
Or maybe Sherman. I don't know. One of those guys.
Okay. All right. Anything else we didn't hit you want to get in before we wrap up?
I guess I want to thank you for coming up, spending the time to do this, say how excited I am for the season, as always. Looking forward to it. You can, as you alluded to in the beginning of the show, theviewfromcentercourt.com will have a season preview up, hopefully on Friday. You can all look forward to reading that. And West New York Athletics will be out covering games. We'll have a center court game of the week, all that good stuff. Lots to look forward to this season. All
right. Thank you, Chad Andrews. The View from Center Court. Once more, support for the Friday Night Lights preseason basketball special comes from our members and Miracle Method Surface Refinishers in Western New York and Rochester, and Zoldaz Executive Transportation.
What does it mean when people say America is a land of opportunity?
It means the power to discover,
to redefine yourself,
to improve yourself,
to challenge yourself,
to realize there's more in you
than you ever knew
that you could do.
It means giving people an open field to explore what they do best.
With the best tools,
the best training,
the best technology in the world.
We bring out the best in the people who serve.
So you can be
all you can be.